Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. K here. This afternoon, we're going to start with the first gentleman, Elizarraras, and he's a master's student of nutrition and in our field, actually, kinesiology. And today he's going to be talking about the effect of combined creatine and caffeine supplementation optimizing exercise performance. Please.
Hey everyone, my name is Elizarraras. Today my presentation will be on the effects of combined creatine and caffeine supplementation in optimizing performance. My study was conducted under the guidance of Dr. K, so I'd like to thank him for that. And I just want to begin and lay a little bit of roadmap of today's presentation. So I'm going to start off by giving a little background on creatine and caffeine. Then I'm going to outline my objectives for today. I'll then follow it up with discussing the effects of creatine and caffeine individually, and then why it might be beneficial to combine the two. I'll then provide the positive and conflicting findings, and I'll end with key takeaways and my conclusion. So, creatine and caffeine are two of the most widely used supplements in sports. They both offer very unique benefits. Creatine works by supporting anaerobic energy production, which enhances muscle performance through muscle recovery, muscle strength, and muscle power. Caffeine, on the other hand, works by enhancing, works as a central nervous system stimulant for enhancing mood and productivity. While some studies indicate that there is benefits to supplementing both these, other studies indicate that there is potential interference due to their opposing physiological effects. So that raises questions as to whether or not they work together optimally. So, my goal today is to analyze the effects of creatine and caffeine on exercise performance. I want to determine whether caffeine enhances the benefits of creatine or whether or not those physiological effects counteract each other. And then finally, based on those findings, I'd like to provide recommendations for athletes and sports professionals on how to use this supplement optimally. So, creatine primarily works by raising the availability of phosphocreatine. This helps to quickly make ATP. This is done through the ATP-PC cycle. This substance is usually used for endurance-based or high-intensity and short-duration exercises. Caffeine, on the other hand, works by blocking adenosine receptors. Adenosine is responsible for making us feel relaxed and sleepy. So this supplement is mostly used for endurance-based and strength-based activities. So both supplements enhance performance, but they do so through different mechanisms. So this right here is what really raises curiosity on their synergy. So, studies suggest that taking creatine and caffeine enhances performance. Studies indicate that performance outcomes occur when caffeine is taken after a creatine loading phase of 5 to 6 days, potentially allowing for both supplements to work effectively. On the other hand, other studies show neutral or negative effects. Potential issues include calcium regulation. So creatine is responsible for promoting calcium uptake, which helps with muscle relaxation. Caffeine, on the other hand, it promotes calcium release, which is then responsible for contractions. And so this opposing effects could also alter effectiveness of the supplements. So the studies that have found positive findings include these by Lee in 2011 and 2012. Both these studies found that the combination of creatine and caffeine improved average power output during the initial 2 sprints of a 5-sprint protocol, maximum efforts during high-intensity efforts, and lastly, time to exhaustion on a cycling test. And we'll look at those findings on this next slide. So on the top left and bottom left, you will see the average power output and maximum power output for these intervention groups across 5 sprints. As you can see, the creatine and caffeine group in the black bar show increased average power output and maximum power output on these initial 2 and 3rd sprint. To the right here is time to exhaustion during the cycling test, and as you can see once again, the creatine and caffeine group had a better time to exhaustion than these other groups. These findings suggest that combining creatine and caffeine under these conditions would be best for athletes who are involved in high-intensity repeated burst activities. So this would be beneficial for people like weightlifters, repeated sprint athletes, or an endurance-based sport. So, like I mentioned earlier, there is conflicting findings. However, those findings may be due to several factors. First, timing of caffeine ingestion. The timing of caffeine ingestion relative to exercise may play a role in on the impact of caffeine. Second, differences in caffeine dosages, such as a low too high, or a dose too high or a dose too low, may also impact performance outcomes. Thirdly, participants' habitual caffeine intake. People that regularly take caffeine may develop a tolerance, reducing the benefits of caffeine. Additionally, genetic variations change how caffeine can be metabolized. So two people may have varying effects on that supplement. And lastly, creatine loading protocols. The duration of the creatine loading protocol, as well as the amount taken, can alter the effects. And when studies, as I will speak to here in a minute, those differences can alter those findings and make it harder to come to a conclusion. So this image on the right here, these are a couple studies that I found showing different caffeine and creatine protocols and whether they found improvements, no improvements, or negative improvements. And as you can see, this is a good example of how creatine loading protocols can have an effect on our outcomes. You can see that the negative or no improvement had different loading and caffeine protocols. So what does this mean in practice? For the combination of creatine and caffeine supplementation, the type of athlete, and the training focus is important. For endurance athletes, research suggests that taking 5 to 7 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight can help improve endurance performance. Additionally, to maximize these benefits, taking caffeine 60 minutes before exercise can help improve endurance performance and time to exhaustion. This is especially helpful for cycling, endurance-based sports, and any repeated sprint type movement. For strength athletes, it is recommended a 6 or more day creatine loading protocol is followed. This is associated with maximal power and strength. However, if you're involved in explosive movements like Olympic lifts such as squats, maybe refraining or cycling off caffeine may be beneficial to offset any potential interferences. And lastly, potential side effects and considerations. Caffeine can cause dehydration and caffeine can cause dehydration and stomach discomfort, so it is important to make sure you drink enough water or get enough water when taking these supplements. Additionally, caffeine sensitivity can have an altered effect on these compounds, leading to insomnia, jitters, or elevated heart rate. And in conclusion, athletes looking to optimize their performance should be mindful of their caffeine intake when taking creatine, as timing strategies are important. Furthermore, genetic variations and caffeine sensitivity play a role on its effectiveness and potential side effects. Looking forward for future research, I think studies should focus on looking at behind the mechanisms responsible between the altercation of these two supplements. Additionally, studies should be more diverse, including women or older adults, to really see that difference. And lastly, we need to work on standardizing protocols to make recommendations clearer. That is all for me today. Thank you for your time, and I can now answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Yeah.
What type of caffeine should we be imagining when you're like drinking coffee, or are we talking?
I don't think necessarily where it comes from is as important. Of course, natural compounds come with other benefits because of the nutrient in those compounds, but I think the dosage and timing is much more important as opposed to the source of the caffeine. Any other questions?
Not, another round of applause.
Thank you.